Following the WHO recommendations, the course consists of 3 modules. The first module covers feeding your baby from birth till the age of 5 months. The second module covers feeding your baby from 6 months till the age of 2 years. And the third one looks at special circumstances, such as feeding of ill children or feeding in the context of COVID. Let's look at each module in detail. Before even starting the modules, we will look at what you can expect at the maternity ward and explore what constitutes a baby-friendly facility. This will help you to ensure that your baby is properly fed and taken care of from the first seconds of their life. The first module officially starts with 2 sessions with an explanation why breastfeeding is important and how it works physiologically. This forms the underlying basis of the course material and helps you to understand the recommendations that are made later. We recommend taking this session before proceeding with the later ones. For some people it might seem to be a bit technical, but it is necessary for you to understand the reasons for other recommendations. Session 3 focuses on what you can observe to see if you are breastfeeding correctly. It looks in depth at different how-to parts of breastfeeding with detailed step-by-step guidance on what to do. In Session 4, we will look at how to position your baby at your breast and how to breastfeed them, followed by the Session 5 on common breastfeeding difficulties and how to address them. In the Session 6, we will look at why you might need to express your breast milk sometimes and how to do so, followed by an explanation of how to cup feed in the Session 7. Cup feeding, as opposed to bottle feeding, is a recommended method of feeding a baby if you cannot breastfeed. It can be used for both expressed breast milk as well as with infant formula. In Session 8, we will look at common breast conditions such as breast engorgement and how to manage them. In the next 3 sessions, 9 to 11, we will look at infant formula, the minimum requirements for choosing infant formula over breastfeeding. We will explain how to stop breastfeeding and show you advantages and disadvantages of using infant formula, so you can make an informed decision on breastfeeding versus infant formula feeding. We will look at how to choose infant formula, how to safely prepare infant formula, and how to calculate the frequency and the amount of the formula needed for a baby. We will finish the module by looking at growth charts. The charts are developed by the WHO, so you can compare your child's growth to growth of other children and see if there are discrepancies, so that you understand if your child is underweight or overweight, and correct early a feeding problem that causes this. The growth standards were developed for children up to the age of 18 years old, but we will look only at the first 2 years. The second module is focused on feeding your baby from 6 months old until 2 years old. We will start with a description of the importance of complementary feeding. In the second and third sessions, we will look at the variety of possible foods for the child and will provide recommendation on how to choose appropriate foods to fill those major gaps in nutrients that can no longer be filled with breastfeeding or infant formula alone. We will look in detail into how to address your baby's gaps in energy, iron, and vitamin A, the most frequently found gaps in feeding young children. In Session 4, we will finish by looking at the quantity, variety, and frequency of feeding. In Session 5, we will compare the different feeding techniques that you might find useful while introducing complementary food for your child. The last module focuses on special circumstances that you may encounter. The first session will describe appropriate feeding during your baby's illness and recovery. Approximately 1 newborn in 6, or 17 million babies yearly, are born with low birth weight. Therefore, the second session looks into feeding low birth weight infants, which are defined as babies whose weight at birth is less than 2.5 kilograms, or about 5.5 pounds. The third session will look into how to feed your baby if you get infected with the coronavirus. Spoiler alert, you can still breastfeed, but you need to take some precautions.